and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. And it is almost 9 o'clock when we will begin our meeting. There we go. It's 9 o'clock, and we will open up our meeting this morning, and we're going to begin with some presentations. The first is Arts and Rec is going to give us a programs and exhibits in our parks and rec spaces and facilities. This will be done by Beth Sterling, and we're so excited to hear. Beth, thank you for joining us this morning.
Of course, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for having us this morning. I am Beth Sterling with the Parks and Recreation Department, and we're so excited to talk about Arts and Rec. Recently, we were able to utilize previously empty walls at Kelly Rec and the new Lake Crago Outdoor Recreation Complex to display art created by Central Florida artists. However, if we really want to talk about the role art plays in our parks and recreation spaces, we'd like to take a step back and look at what we've been doing and how Arts and Rec will help formalize the city's continued support for art in public spaces, artists in our community, and encouraging exposure and love for the arts in our youngest citizens. First, we are the proud home to murals in a variety of our spaces. From Gandy Pool to the dance room at Kelly Rec, you can find murals from Tampa artist Carl Calden III at the Main Library and the Larry R. Jackson Branch Library. And here is a portion of the Gabriella Jackson mural found in the Simpson Park Community Center basketball gym. Staff worked with the artist to come up with words for the walls to include teamwork, vision, diversity, integrity, wisdom, and courage. While on site, Gabby's team even invited the after-school kids into the gym to learn about the process. The Florida Outdoor Sculpture Competition on the Lemon Street Promenade began in 1999 in partnership with the Polk Museum of Art. The Parks and Recreation Department took over the admin side of the show in 2016, which includes a nationwide call for art. Each year, Lemon Street gets 10 new to us sculptures chosen by a jury comprised of city staff, members of Lakeland's art community, and representatives from the Polk Museum of Art. There is also the potential to expand the footprint of the exhibit outside the bounds of Lemon Street. Over the years, the Parks and Recreation Department has been able to acquire a number of permanent sculptures. Many were originally on display on Lemon Street. From Lake Mirror on the east to Veterans Park on the west, there are just over 20 sculptures in Lakeland's downtown area, in addition to the rotating piece found on Lemon Street. The LDDA has provided the community with access to an audio walking tour where you get to hear the sculptors talk about it via the AutoCast app. Partnerships with the community helped create sculptures honoring veterans in Veterans Memorial Park. Our most recent permanent sculpture is found at Lake Crago. Our recreation division and library divisions consistently offer programming for the arts. Just to name a few, we have Hush Just Brush right there in the middle at Simpson Park. Citizens can find quilting, ballroom, salsa, and belly dancing at Kelly Rec. The libraries offer writers' workshops, crafting classes, and this summer, Spools Out for the Summer has been a real hit with our youngest. In addition to our own programs, we are proud to be partners with the Lakeland Community Theater, Lakeland Concert Band, and the upcoming Fine Art at the Magnolia. All of these are held in parks and recreation facilities on Lake Mirror. Our most recent project, Arts and Rec, has incorporated juried art into our rec centers. We already had the walls, we just needed the art. Our recreation division worked with Art Crawl, and this entire process was made possible by the support of their founder and president, Ellen Chastain, who's here. Art Crawl is a Lakeland-based nonprofit organization serving as a catalyst to celebrate the emergence of new and innovative artists in Central Florida. A call for art was hosted and organized in partnership with Art Crawl. Representatives from the Parks and Recreation Department, Art Crawl, and Art Crawl selected the art for display based on originality, skill, the appearance of the artist's voice, visual impact, quality, and each physical exhibition space. So just how much space on the walls we could put up there. More than 30 pieces were selected for the first 2 exhibits at Lake Crago and Kelly Rec. Kevin Cook's Communications Superstars worked with us to create the fantastic logo and name plaques found on the walls. Thanks to the City Attorney's Office and Public Works, and Risk Management and Public Works for their usual behind-the-scenes efforts. As usual, this project is not possible without so many in our city team, including the faith and trust from department and city management leadership. The sky is the limit for where we can go from here. We're thinking of everything from Meet the Artist events, where they can meet some of our kids at our after-school programs, more arts programming, and on and on. Our next call will be live in the next few weeks, and will include the Coleman Bush Building. Thank you to you all for supporting Parks and Recreation Department. The green spaces and facilities enable us to provide the canvas that make arts and rec possible. And as you can tell, arts are woven into everything we do already. So if you have any questions or comments, we're here for them.
Well, Beth, thank you for the presentation. Very well done. Do love the Arts and Rec logo. That is great out of communications. And Ellen, thank you for your contributions. You know, art is the kind of thing that when you walk in to a hallway, even if you're not artistically motivated, when it's present, it influences. And you see it even if you don't. Whereas the people who really enjoy it then also have something else to be able to appreciate. So. And
actually, you saying that, I forgot we were going to mention that at Kelly Rec, within, I think, a week, 2 weeks, Michael, we had a piece sold. So, because that's the other thing, since it's Central Florida artists, we put QR codes so that the artists, so people can contact the artist. And so we already had somebody in our rec centers went in there and appreciated it enough to contact the artist and bought it right off the wall.
They did that swimmingly. Any comments? Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. I have a brief question. Over the weekend, I was riding around and I noticed they're starting a mural on such and such building. Is that part of something? Is that something different than is in Dixieland?
I am LDDA. If somebody's CRA or CRA. They might know, because they have a whole mural program that goes along with that, but not anything with our things. But we do work a lot with the CRA.
So we do have multiple different functions that are going forward. I didn't know who approved them, how they got paid for, or just who gets to paint them, stuff like that. But I'm sure I'll find out.
Yes, yeah. No, we are very happily not on the building in the permitting side.
Any other comments by Commissioner Madden?
Thank you. So exciting to see all of the things that you're working on. I did want to ask, you mentioned how you go online and hear the audio tour. So could you tell me more about that? I know that it was on Lemon Street. Is it only for Lemon Street, or is that all of the sculptures throughout the city?
We're actually really proud of that. So we had one of the developers from AutoCast come to us about the Florida Outdoor Sculpture Competition for years, and I personally will admit that I was like, oh, we don't have budget, like we have the money for this, and he finally was, no, you're a small show. So they did it he just did it for free for Lemon Street. And through talking to Julie, I mentioned when they were looking for the app. So if you download the AutoCast app, now you can hear from the artists on Lemon Street, and then there's a separate tour that does all the art that's permanent for downtown.
And you could spell that app?
OTOCAST.
OTOCAST.
Yes, and on the Florida Outdoor Sculpture Competition website, we have a link to the app. So it's lakelandgov.net/FLOSC. That's any easier than the other way.
And the purpose of that app is that if it's on your phone, you can walk up to something and it'll tell you about it.
Yep.
Which works not only here, but in lots of cities.
Yep.
So
it's really, and it's the artists talking about the pieces too, so it's neat.
Any other comments? All right, thank you so much. And we are so grateful for our Parks and Rec Department and all the creativity that exists in it and influence over the years. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, that brings us to Beautification Awards, and we have Bill Cohen, who is our expert in this area, making that presentation today. Mr. Cohen?
Thank you. First up will be our residential award for this month. It goes to Cheryl and Donald Montgomery, who reside at 331 Kearneywood Street. Wait for the picture here. You see this beautiful residence here. It's perfectly manicured, colorful, and there's artwork all over this yard and the all sorts of artwork, so they do a great job at this project. Is there anyone here to receive this award? Oh, great.
I have a few words to say.
Certainly.
All right.
Well, come on up, then.
Here,
Come on up.
hear me.
Yeah, you have to come on up. Here, I'm going to give you a mic.
I must say these words, they're important.
Okay.
Hold on. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just sit.
You can sit down and stand right there. That'll work.
All right. Can you hear me?
Former school teacher.
We want to thank Mayor Mutz and the Beautification Board for this award. All the credit goes to my wife, who spread 45 to 50 bags of mulch. Somebody must have felt sorry for a 75-year-old woman into the heat spreading mulch and weeding. I was unable to help her due to a wound on my left foot. Also, I want to thank Eric's Lawn Service and the other side, Sean Harrington, for their service. Incidentally, we won this award 20 years ago at next door to 405 Kearneywood. Thank you very much.
I also want to give credit to my mother, who passed away about 11 years ago. We had lived in the house next door, and this is her little English cottage that she so very cherished. And Don and I decided to downscale after the hurricanes practically demolished this house in 2004. We completely rehabbed it, and it's a cozy little abode, but I'm sure she's looking down from the heavens and showing her gratitude. Thank you all. I am so humbled by this, because as I walk around our beautiful neighborhood, I see so many beautiful homes that are so much better landscaped than mine. But thank you. I'm very grateful.
And this is a great example of the history of homes and all the work and past that has gone into them, so that there's so much more than just the places we live, but the heritages they represent as well. Yes, 1925.
Is there any way you could stand up?
Or we could sit down.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
He's about over his wound. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the commercial award, and it goes to the Sweet Cup Cafe, located at 1401 Lakeland Hills Boulevard. The building has been totally renovated. The landscape features hanging baskets, container gardens, and a very attractive outdoor eating area. And I understand the place, just from the number of cars parked outside of it all the time, is doing very well. It's a fairly new restaurant, renovated, but seems to be off to a great start, and it's really a nice, attractive renovation here. Is anyone here to?
Awesome, by the way.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
Well, this is a good ad.
Is there anyone here to receive the award today? Oh, great.
All right.
Thank you. This way out.
Good voice. Here we go.
We just want to say thank you very much to the community for supporting us, and we worked really hard. It was rough getting started, and it's my sister and I. This is my little sister. We graduated, I did, from Lakeland, and she from Tenoroc. So we're Lakeland girls, and it's a dream come true to finally get our little building cute and like a place where we want to go. Where we want a place that we would like to share with the whole community. And I can't believe we won this award. We were so surprised. I guess hard work pays off, and we just want to say thank you very much to everybody.
Mr. Cohen, just 1 second. Yes, I hear something. Here it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and what a wonderful celebration of the beautification that happens in our city each and every day. And we saw a great example this morning of the residential property and also a commercial property that has done such a great job making Lakeland just a beautiful place to live. So it is my pleasure this morning to present a surprise recognition, which is from the City of Lakeland. It is a Lifetime Achievement and Beautification Award. A couple of weeks ago, I was walking to lunch past the front lawn here at City Hall, and I had an opportunity to run into Mr. Cohen. And in just a few minutes of that conversation, he talked about the roses that were located on the front lawn and how, based on those conditions, it was better suited for a butterfly garden. So we had that conversation, and a day and a half later, I walked back by again, and it was no longer roses. It was, in fact, a beautiful butterfly garden full of butterflies. So we want to recognize Mr. Bill Cohen this morning. Bill celebrated more than 50 years with the City of Lakeland last year. He is a Florida Southern graduate and the city's horticulture specialist in the Parks and Recreation Department. Bill's recent project, creating the butterfly garden at City Hall, has garnered attention, but is only a snapshot of Bill's fingerprint on the beautification projects he is responsible for throughout the city. He brings his extensive knowledge advocating for pollinator-friendly plants in beds all over the city. Bill is the man behind the city's multiple rose gardens and can be seen many weekends providing his TLC to those blooms. Just 2 weeks ago, I had a city manager from Pinellas County who visited me on a Saturday. We spent the Saturday going to the Saturday downtown farmers market and ended up at Garden Bistro over at the Magnolia building. And Matt Campbell, that city manager, just could not believe how beautiful the roses were there around the Magnolia building. Bill is the city representative working with the Beautification Board, and that's who was responsible for the presentations previously this morning, which recognizes both commercial and residential properties each month striving for a beautiful community. On a personal note, I've heard Bill likes to use his vacation time to visit Major League Baseball stadiums across the country.
Just in Cleveland.
You were just in Cleveland last week. How many stadiums, Bill, have you visited?
We've been to all 30 stadiums.
All 30 stadiums. And I hear that Minute Maid Field in Houston may be your favorite.
It's really interesting.
Is that one of your favorites? Okay.
A lot of that one in particular, yeah.
Great. Bill is presently planning his retirement, but until then, he will spend his remaining time with the city preparing the next generation of Green Thumbs to attempt to carry on his legacy, which is a big shoes to fill. So we want to recognize Mr. Bill Cohen for all of his years of service with the city, for the beautification projects that he's responsible for, and making the city of Lakeland just an awesome, beautiful place to live. So Mr. Cohen, thank you very much, and congratulations on this recognition. recognition.
Mentioned we're always doing landscape projects, and this recent project we're working on, we're totally renovating the Cleveland Heights Golf Course landscape, replacing all the hedges, and we added another rose garden there, by the way, and more flower beds. We're always trying to make the city beautiful.
Great. Thank you again, Bill.
Those times are so fun. Oh, yes, sir. I apologize. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is present the National Night Out proclamation because we're just waiting for a second for Chief Garcia to get here. Not any longer, we aren't, and so I'm not doing the next proclamation. We will have an award, and Chief Garcia, you want to make that presentation, sir?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're here today to give a couple of our officers a First Aid CPR Life-Saving Award. And we have Officer Fid and Detective Maroney come up, please. Okay. I'll read you the citation, and then we'll present them with the award. On May 4th, 2021, around 07:58 hours in the morning, Officer Kenneth Vanderpool was involved in a vehicle crash. A citizen suffered a medical episode which caused them to evacuate their lane of travel and collide with Officer Vanderpool's department vehicle on Hardin Boulevard. Officer Vanderpool immediately requested medical assistance. Detective Maroney was the first officer on the scene, where he located an unconscious and unresponsive male, Alfred Sapp. Behind the wheel of the vehicle, Detective Maroney quickly determined Mr. Sapp had a faint pulse and needed to be removed from the vehicle. Officer Fid arrived, and they jointly removed Mr. Sapp from the vehicle and placed him on the ground. Officer Maroney prepared Mr. Sapp for CPR as Officer Fid began giving CPR to Mr. Sapp. They continued this until emergency medical personnel arrived on the scene and was able to take over and replace the CPR with a CPR machine. Mr. Sapp was then transported to the Lakeland Regional Health Center in very serious condition, and it was determined that he had a history of heart issues, but thankfully, on May the 13th, 2021, we learned Mr. Sapp had survived and was continuing to receive treatment for his condition. Officer Fid and Detective Maroney, your fast response and quick thinking was directly responsible for the life-saving efforts of Mr. Sapp, and in keeping in the highest traditions of the Lakeland Police Department, respect, integrity, teamwork, and excellence. We would like to commend you for a job well done and congratulate you on receiving this award. Thank you.
My name's Chase Sapp. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, literally from the bottom of my heart, for the job that you guys done with saving my life. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. My name's Edward Griffith. I grew up in Lakeland, and I left 35 years ago for employment. My best friend here, Jay, these two people right here, wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for these people. I can't thank them enough, you know. There's going to be another celebration for these folks here and the other folks that were involved in this. Sorry, I'm a little broke up because of my buddy here. But anyway, October 9th at the Polk Theater, we're going to have a big celebration. There are some other people that were involved too, the first responders from the fire department, 5 other people. And October 9th at 6:30, go to polktheater.org, take a look. It's called Return of the Survivors. There's some Leonard Skinner plane crash folks that were here in 1977. We're friends with these guys that were on the plane that crashed, and they know what it's like to be saved. And so they want to celebrate these guys. So we appreciate them. It's going to be a great night. Thank you very much.
All right, that brings us to our proclamation. And this is also kind of an LPD-related proclamation because this is our National Night Out proclamation. Here to receive this are Assistant Chief Sam Taylor, Captain Marvin Tarver, Lieutenant Sean Collins, Cindy Sharp, Susie Bales, Andrea Battle, Angie Ellis, and Gwen Stanislewiski. Come on down, please. Tomorrow is National Night Out, by the way, so come on down, team. Who wants to be the holder? All right, I guess that is appropriate. There's no question. This is the brains and organization behind it all. Just find a place to slide in, and we'll stay tight. All right. Okay. Can I read it? I forgot to tell you. I shouldn't have handed it to you first. I need to read it. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch is sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021, titled National Night Out. And whereas the 37th Annual National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the City of Lakeland to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts, and whereas neighborhood watch programs in Lakeland play a vital role in assisting the Lakeland Police Department through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts and supporting National Night Out 2021 locally. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of Lakeland be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and the impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence, and whereas the Lakeland community will have close to 100 local businesses and neighborhoods participating in this year's National Night Out, and whereas police community partnerships, neighborhood safety awareness, and cooperation are important themes of the National Night Out program, I, H. William Mutz, Mayor of the City of Lakeland, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 as National Night Out in the City of Lakeland and call upon all citizens of Lakeland to join the Lakeland Police Department and National Association of Town Watch in supporting the 37th Annual National Night Out program. Would you like to say something, Cindy?
Chief would.
Oh, yes. Excuse me. She's so wise. She's so wise.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Cindy. We just want to tell you we certainly look forward to seeing folks out tomorrow night. We know there's a lot of concern over the COVID spike again, so we'd certainly encourage the social distancing. And we will be out, and we hope to have a good night, and we'll get through that and make sure we do it safely. But it is an opportunity to come out and support your neighborhood and meet your neighbors, and that is always a good thing, and we look forward to interacting with you.
You did good.
I did good. I did good. All right, thank you.
So we'll take one picture.
Looking forward to it.
It is such a blessing to have a great police department in our city, and we are so grateful for them. We are now going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is committee reports and related items. And there is only one report today, and that's from the Real Estate and Transportation Committee, and Chairman is Commissioner Bill Reed. Commissioner Reed?
Thank you, Mayor. The Real Estate and Transportation Committee met this morning in the city conference room at 8:30 a.m. Myself, Chair, Commissioner Chad McLeod, Commissioner Mike Music, along with Mayor Bill Muntz, Stephanie Madden, Sarah McCauley, and Phil Walker as staff were present. We had two orders of business today, the first being agreement with the city of Lakeland, with Lakeland Community Theater, and the second with a third amendment, a ground lease with Tiger Town GM Limited. The first business was the proposed agreement with the Lakeland Community Theater for the use of city's Lake Lemire Center Theater Complex. This agreement set forth the terms and conditions upon which the Lakeland Community Theater will utilize the theater in adjacent executive office areas containing other portions of Lake Lemire Center for theatrical production classes and on a non-exclusive basis. Lakeland Community Theater will rent the Lake Lemire Center for a term of 3 years with a retroactive date effective August 1, 2021, and 2 one-year renewal options upon mutual agreement with all parties. The Lakeland Community Theater will pay a 2% of any ticket sales price deriving from theater productions at the complex for the use of Lake Lemire Center facility. In addition, the agreement sets forth responsibilities of Lakeland Community Theater to maintain and repair damages while using the facility and afford the city more defined liability protection from the Lakeland Community Theater of any damages or injuries that may be incurred on the leased properties. The action was approved by Commissioner McLeod, made a motion to approve. Commissioner Music seconded the motion. It carried unanimously. The second order of business is a third amendment ground lease with Tiger Town GM Limited. On September 5th, 2019, the City Commissioner selected Tiger Town GM, Tiger Town referred to, as an affiliate of Green Mill Group LLC to develop Parker Point Apartments, a multifamily affordable housing complex to be constructed on approximately 2.83 acres of city-owned property located on the East Bella Vista Street and south of city's Joker Marchant complex. Tiger Town will develop 36 one-bedrooms, 40 two-bedrooms, and 3 three-bedroom apartments for a total of 88 units on the subject property to be rented to families earning 30 to 80% of the Polk County average median income. A formal ground lease was entered between Tiger Town and the city on September the 19th, 2019. The ground lease has been amended twice since that time to extend the closing date of the final project to December 31 of 2020 to August 31st, 2021. And they extended the lease term from 50 years to 65 years. The Florida Housing Finance Corporation, which is the financing for the project through a combination of tax-exempt bonds, community development block grants, and disaster recovery funds and housing credits, has now advised Tiger Town that the ground lease must be for a term of 99 years in order to meet program requirements for affordability and perpetuality. Tiger Town is now requesting a third amendment of the ground lease to extend the lease from 65 years to 99 years. The Tiger Town also requests that the closing date for financing be extended to December 31st of 2021. The city staff is in agreement with Tiger Town requests. The action was taken when Commissioner McLeod made a motion to approve, Commissioner Music second, and the proposal was passed unanimously. With that, our meeting joined at 8:36 a.m., and I presented it to the city commissioners.
Excellent, sir, and it was very efficient. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. And a second. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussion or questions by the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes for both items. This brings us to the approval of the consent agenda, which is the asterisk items, and you'll see in the asterisk items that it is only the minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion approved in second. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussions or questions by the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. There are no requests to appear from the general public. We cease meeting as a commission at this point and move into an equalization board, and we'll have lots of clearings from our city attorney, Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city charter requires that prior to recording a lien against private property, when the city has cut or cleared that property, that the city commission convene as an equalization board and grant those private property owners the opportunity to object to the recording of a lien or ask any questions that you might have. So if you've received a notice for today's meeting to appear before the city commission relating to a lot cleaning and clearing assessment, now is your time to address the city commission the role that contains the properties that are potentially affected by a lien are being scrolled overhead right now. So this is your time to address the commission if you have any objections.
Is there anyone that does? And if so, sir, if you could just come up to the mic, state your name and address and the item.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Franklin Cruz, representing True Investors Development. We probably have about 5 liens on there. It's all on the same property on Olive Street. I've got them all in front of me. Give me 1 second. Let me gather my notes real quick.
Page 2.
And that is, I believe there's 5 liens on that property. Currently there is 9.1 acres on that parcel. We just received notification from the city about the liens, and I apologize, mail was going to a wrong address. When we finally got it corrected, we thought that the landscaping was already completed. We found out that that was not complete. So this weekend we did scramble, and we did got about 4 acres of that lot already cleared and cut. We're requesting at least a delay or another inspection of the property because we had to get a tractor out there. We just purchased that property, and we're going to be working with you guys on doing affordable housing there. We just did not realize the back half of it is a jungle, literally. So we have to get a tractor out there. So just requesting if we can delay the lien or if we could get it re-inspected for another 30 days, and then you'll see that it's all cleared and everything's already complete.
Is there any desire to do that? How would you like to handle that, sir?
I just noticed that there's a couple of different addresses for True Investors on the property. One's on a couple on Oregon and then a couple on Olive Street. It's just the Olive Street addresses that you're.
Well, Olive Street and Morgan, they're all connected. So it's like 4 or 5 parcels, and they all connect into one huge parcel. So all of that is just one huge parcel on it. So that my request is that if we could just delay it another 30 days. I mean, the guy's going to be out there tomorrow with the tractor getting everything cut and cleared out.
That's usually the most efficient way to go, is just to let staff work with them and pull it off of this roll. That doesn't necessarily mean that the city's,
So can we be specific on the addresses? So that's 1120 Olive?
It's 458 Oregon Avenue, 1550 Olive Street, 450 Oregon, and I believe there is one on Morgan as well. And if I'm missing an address, I apologize.
Just to make sure we get them off.
Yeah.
All right, and then is there a staff person in the room that he can meet with? All right, and we'll make sure we get those off. Okay, so we will remove those if there's a motion.
Motion to remove.
Okay, and there's a motion, and is there a second?
Second.
I have a question also.
Second, we have to have a motion first, and then question, Commissioner Music.
Are these costs that have been incurred already, or these are future costs based on if they don't respond to the action?
They are costs that have already been incurred.
Okay.
Got it.
There
Commissioner.
again, I recommend if the staff finds it adequate, that we remove the administrative component. I know we can't do the mowing, but if we can remove the administrative component, that's my motion on this.
That'd be an amendment
Yeah.
to the motion. Yes, Commissioner Walker.
I think normally that's what we've done in the past. We remove the administrative cost because the hard cost has already been spent.
Right.
And I think that's what we've done in the past, if I'm not mistaken, so.
What we've typically done is to refer it to staff and let them
Let staff works it out?
research it more and find out what the particularities are of the situation. And then if there is a problem, that's one of the options, is to forgive administrative cost.
That's the only administrative cost, though, if we forgive anything.
I mean, if there's a legal notice problem, we would forgive the whole thing, but typically you have given staff the opportunity to research it first before taking any action. Just pull it off the roll for now. You're not relinquishing your rights to do anything in the future.
I got you, yeah.
Commissioner Reed?
I remove my motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Till we find out future.
So we're delegating to staff in this motion to
Yes.
decide what to do. All right, any discussion, other discussion by commissioners? Any by the audience? Any questions from you, Mr. Cruz?
Just thank you for your time.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes, and they'll be removed. The rest
I got a
need to be
question
approved.
to him. Yeah, he mentioned something that I want to ask about, if I may, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned that you are looking into making, doing some of these properties that have to do with affordable housing, if I heard you correctly?
Well, the land, there's no properties on the land. It's only 9.9 acres clear land.
He's going to build.
So you're going to build?
Yes, we want to do affordable housing. We're
Yes.
going through that entire due diligence process now.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought I heard you say. I want to make sure I heard it.
Yeah.
And make sure that we all heard it, because that's what we need.
Yes. And I know that I've been already working on it almost 8 months. I'm just doing due diligence and just making the soils good enough that I could finally start talking to you guys and say, okay, we can do this.
And you have a history of doing this in other markets.
Yes, we do.
Staff, did you want to make some comments with respect to this? You have to come behind the mic. Yes, sorry.
Saniqua Marshall, interim manager for the City of Lakeland Code Enforcement. I have been in touch with the buyer, the purchaser, and he has also expressed the same ideas and determination for their plans and projects for these two properties. They didn't know about one of the properties that I did bring to their attention. So we are actually in process with working with them, and I will make sure that the gentleman here today also has my contact information.
Excellent. And that we've got his right address.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Great. Did you have something else to say, Commissioner Walker?
Oh, no.
Any other comments?
I told you my comment.
We need a motion then to approve the revised list.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion by commissioners? Any discussion or questions by the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes for the revised equalization hearing list. Thank you very much. And we will cease meeting as an equalization board, return as a commission, and we will go to item 3A1, public hearings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one ordinance for public hearing and consideration of final action today, and that is proposed ordinance number 21-032, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Lakeland, Florida, relating to the City of Lakeland Affordable Housing Incentive Plan, making findings, amending incentive target areas under the plan, providing for administrative review of incentive applications, repealing previous ordinances, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Discussion by commissioners. Discussion by our city manager. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. I had a chance to read this over time, and being on vacation, I put a call into our city administrator and suggested that we might look at expanding this area if we're going to do affordable housing, as opposed to cutting it off at the 570 road. Why don't we and just include the entire city boundaries where we have our utilities and stuff like that? So that's just a thought that if we're going to really take care of affordable housing, I think we need to expand it to the areas that anybody wants to build affordable housing without having to go through sessional steps we need to do so. But I have confidence in our staff that if they wish to approve stuff, then ultimately we're going to get say anyway. But invariably, I would like to expand it to include our city limits.
City Manager Strauss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Reed. Commissioner Reed did have a conversation with me at the end of last week. In addition to that, I've also had, one of our affordable housing developer partners, I would say, who has asked the same question. I did some research into that, and first let me say that staff would not object to the concept. However, just an explanation of how those boundaries for these waivers has been established is based on the Central City Transit Supportive Area districts. And so, the thought process prior to today has always been that in that kind of core district area, the transit services are most readily available. And if affordable housing residents, need access to that type of transit, it's available basically within those boundaries. If you start getting too far out, to the edges of the city limits, you don't necessarily have as much of that core kind of transit services available. So that's why it has previously been established based on the district and is proposed to be that way. But that being said, again, if the commission desired that the city staff have the administrative ability anywhere within the city limits, if it were affordable housing, to apply these type of waivers, staff would have no objection to that. That's just, I wanted to give an explanation as to how the boundaries were originally crafted.
Commissioner Walker.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. But my question is, because I know in talking about affordable housing and talking about making sure we can provide support to people who need to be able to get around. And I want to make sure that I'm hearing that correct, because I thought that was one of the things that we kind of look at, especially so, as you just mentioned, Mr. City Manager, for people to be able to traverse. You got to be able to get around, be able to connect, and be able to get to places they can get to, because sometimes they're limited in their own way of getting to and fro from places, excuse me. So is that in some of these applications that I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm hearing about applications being made for tax credits and those kind of things, when you're talking about affordable housing and building as such, and then a criteria that they have to have being a certain kind of composite where you do have transit available for people to get around?
That again, that is based on the transit supportive area, that the district that's been created is where the services are available, are most readily available throughout the city. So it contemplates the idea that those transit services are available, that would be accessible to the affordable housing developments, and outside of that district, if you're waiving transportation impact fees, it may make it more difficult to provide for those services in those outer areas outside of that core district.
And that would be one of my concerns. That's what I would have. I know we have Ms. Anna Gibson here. I know she can probably attest or say more about that particular criteria, but believe me, I would like to have affordable housing all over the city as well. But how best can we serve the people who are going to be in need, especially if they go too far out? And then we're talking about, hey, they can't get back and forth to medical facilities, grocery stores, whatever it may be. Is that putting a burden on the people? That's what I would ask.
Good morning, Annie Gibson, Housing Program Supervisor. That is one of the criteria for the tax credit projects, that you are in such an area close to pharmacies, hospitals, clinics, and of course transportation. So that is true.
And the reality is that the transit consideration is going to be important to the developer.
Yes, in particular, we're talking about multifamily.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Transit is very important, yes.
Any other comments by commissioners? Commissioner Mann.
Just for a point of clarity, so if we relaxed our boundaries, that doesn't mean that the developer wouldn't still have some hoops to jump through. So they would still need to go through the appropriate.
Sure.
They would still need to go through the appropriate, but you also, when you're talking about the developers that are coming in for tax credits, you might not get as many because they're not going to get the points for being outside a particular area.
Yeah.
But to reverse that, Commissioner Madden, which is a good question, and we do have examples of developments that have occurred outside of that district that have come before the commission and received more of the waiver opportunities granted by the commission outside of the existing district as it is in the ordinance today.
And the transit district then accommodated stops for those developments as well, correct?
Yes.
Right. Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you. There again, I think Andy made a very good comment. There again, most of these things are awarded on a point system.
Yeah.
So there again, just because we opened up, we'd like to have them in certain places or expand the areas, doesn't necessarily mean they'll get them because of their point system. But I think it's prudent that if we're going to really do affordable housing, it opened up to everybody when we should allow them to not have to go through as many hoops, but invariably it's going to be up to them financially and otherwise to prove that they're a viable candidate. Of course, also I believe the county is county-wide, so they don't have any restrictions from their utilities and service area. So just another little brief statement. So.
Patient Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you. Commissioner Reed and Commissioner Madden, I think, made similar points. I was going to just, for a point of clarification, ask if we relax the boundaries, that the criteria of proximity to transit, pharmacies, other things, that's still a factor. That doesn't go away. That's still part of the process.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense, Commissioner Reed. I didn't really, when you mentioned first mentioned the idea, I didn't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but I do think if you look at the boundaries, it's, I don't know, maybe a bit prohibitive in terms of the process, and if you just expand it citywide, if those criteria are still part of the process, then that is, I think it makes sense. So I would support that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Madden.
And just one more point of clarity. Sometimes you don't always have context or perspective. I certainly don't know the percentage of available land that we have within this boundary, and if there is, more option outside of the boundary for available land, things like that. So I feel like I have limited information with regard to potential as a developer inside the boundary versus expanding outside the boundary.
Commissioner Music.
I know that we had, city managers talked about one we did have outside of the city that was approved, the one on Kathleen, I believe it was, that was outside of the existing. Do we have an example of one that has come in front of the commission that we did not approve? I mean, if we're taking this and we're pushing it back to administrative, I think that history would prove if it came to us anyway, we would approve it, so why not shorten the
step?
Yes.
Right.
And excuse me. Really, there has not been one has come before the commission or the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee that was denied full waiver of impact fees. With that in mind, they would just have to go through the extra step of going before the Affordable Housing Review Committee and then coming to the commissioner to commission to ask for that waiver. So it's just an extra step involved. And this is all applying to multifamily, because for single family it's a little different because those folks have to, of course, pay the impact fee, non-utility impact fees up front,
right,
and then submit documentation at the end that it is an affordable housing unit.
Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mayor. Jared Simpson with the City Attorney's Office. I just wanted to mention a couple of things that under the plan that was adopted by the committee that's been recommended to you all for adoption today, it specifies for single family that 100% reimbursement is available if it's within the CCTSA. But if it's outside of the CCTSA, it's based on the income level of the household, and it would be 25% for moderate income, 50% for low income, and then 75% for very low income. That would be the reimbursement that Ms. Gibson was talking about. So what we're talking about, I assume, if we remove the CCTSA from the equation, it would allow staff to approve up to 100%. I'm not sure if that's the direction that we're being given, but if it is, then that would necessitate us amending the plan. I don't know if it would need to go back to the committee for review again. it would certainly require us to go back to first reading, I believe, because we would have to make some amendments to the ordinance that's presented.
Is there a time pressure for any reason to pass today?
I'd have to defer to Annie on that.
No, sir, not at this time. We're pretty much, for example, for Blue Skies project that's outside this core area, they already are aware that they would have to take those additional steps to get the waiver. And I think there is just a next project in line, so there is no time limit.
Which is an additional phase of what
Right.
they're already doing.
Yes, sir.
And if I could also, to Commissioner Music's comment, when we were looking at this and we were trying to figure out if expanding the area was going to cause a financial impact, we had staff pull all the past examples of requests that were made outside of the previous target areas, and we'd seen that the commission had approved all of them. So that's why we had anticipated that there would be no financial impact, because in the past, the commission has approved every request that's come before it. So really what we're talking about is allowing staff to make that approval, and within the plan, we've allowed the thresholds that I just said from 25 up to 75 if it's outside of the area. That allows staff to just simply approve it. It doesn't mean that people can't ask for more, but those requests would then go to the committee and then ultimately to the commission for approval.
So what's the desire of the commission?
Thank you. It was not my intent to change any parameters within the scope of the text where it's written now, just to expand the area. I don't know how to really.
Well, I think this does that already.
Right.
Because if we in fact are going to bring it back to the commission, it leaves the area like it is with the percentages that are there. We'd then make the decision or not.
Right.
So it involves another step.
Well, that's true, but it still goes, you have to go through an
Yes.
extra couple of steps. I was just trying to make it easier. Again, if they know they've got, if there's time restraints, then obviously they may be, couldn't pull it off, or there's, if you're trying to buy a piece of property, they're not going to give you 18 months to have it under contract for something like that, where it may be, we could shorten it to 9 months or something like that. Just my thoughts on.
Being more efficient is rarely an issue.
Yes, sir. So there is no motion on this, so the motion could be to allow staff to revisit it and come back to us and perhaps amend the plan. Is that a motion?
We'll table this issue then for another time? Yes.
Is your motion to table?
Yes.
Second.
And a second? Discussion by commissioners? Any discussion by the audience? Commissioner Madden.
So just from my perspective, for the tabling, it would be in favor of reducing the number of steps, because that expedites getting affordable housing.
Right.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So to be clear, though, is in the way you want staff to research that would be under the idea of removing the district boundaries and making the city limits the entirety where it would be available, which then, as Ms. Gibson discussed and Mr. Simpson, we would then, you would be potentially then eligible for 100% anywhere within the city limits versus the other matrix that was discussed.
Correct.
Is that okay?
But of course,
yes.
But of course, the developers will understand they need to get the other additional things, to get the steps to get through. They got to jump those hoops, of course, to make sure those credits and whatever incentives that can be provided, they can get to as well. Am I saying that's going to be all part of the deal? They'll have to be a part of the process anyway, right?
Correct, regardless.
Okay, regardless. Okay, right.
Well, yes and no, because there are state credits that you can't go beyond if they're not in proximity, correct?
Well, the difficulty is going to be for those agencies, but those developers who are not receiving state tax credits.
Right.
Because we would have to take the extra time and diligence to prove that those units will stay affordable. With your tax credits, those are already will stay affordable for a certain period of time. But those who are not getting tax credits, we would have to definitely monitor those to make sure they're staying affordable.
Very good.
One more question. I just want to make sure that what we're going to do in the future, I presume, there again, it doesn't preclude us from, at some point in time, if a transportation area is in need, we necessarily don't have to give them a tax credit on that particular portion of the for transportation.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
The transportation wouldn't have to.
Be 100%, or it could be 20%, 50%, something like that. It wouldn't necessarily have to be 100% of the impact fee for transportation.
I think what Commissioner Reed is saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if a developer comes in and it's in a non-transit area, that they might have to pay for that transit service if it's necessary. That might be a hoop. Is that what you're asking, Commissioner Reed?
And that is probably a question I cannot answer at this time.
Right. So we probably need to know that, and then from the Transit Authority as well. I don't know, Annie, if y'all look at the Citrus Connection Lambted Transit game plan and the strategic plan from them and overlay it with what we do here so that we know if they already have transportation in that area or future plans for transportation in the area. It might help us with this boundary.
Thank you, because we do not look at that.
Yeah, we probably should, just so we know for future reference, if we do go to the city limits, because I'm sure that the Transit Authority has a game plan that might say, hey, we know that the corridor, for instance, close to the new VA hospital is going to have a line on it that Mr. Barmby's worked on with the transit group. And so we know that that service area is going to have service because of the VA and also because of Orlando Regional. So if you all know that and we all communicate efficiently, then it might go to the point of having it in all the city limit boundaries, which would be what the commission their appetite is for right now.
Thank you.
I think that's very important too.
And is another reason why
Yeah.
the tabling can do that.
Very, very important to be able to look.
Any other comments by commissioners? Any other comments by the audience? Yes, sir. Please come up, state your name at the podium. No, if you have a comment, sir. We follow the agenda. So that's at the very end. You can do that.
He can speak at the end.
Okay. But on this item, are there any other comments from anyone in the audience? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor for the tabling signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. That gives you an opportunity to do that. Thank you very much. Next, sir.
Next is a public hearing. It's the second of two required public hearings on the city's consolidated plan and strategy for years 2021 through 2025, and the one-year action plan and projected use of funds for the 47th year Community Development Block Grant and 27th year Home Investment Partnerships Programs. I believe Annie will be making a brief presentation on this.
Welcome once again, ma'am.
Annie Gibson, Housing Program Supervisor, Community and Economic Development. And actually, this is just a public hearing to hear comments from the public and get your approval to forward the 2021-2025 and the action plan to HUD. So unless you have any questions, we just need a vote.
Are there any questions? All right.
Move for approval.
A motion to approve and a second from Commissioner Walker. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussion or questions by the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. We have no Community Redevelopment Agency issues or city manager reports unless there's a verbal at all.
No, sir. Thank you.
And that brings us to item 6A, City Attorney Ordinances First Reading.
We have one ordinance for first reading today. That is proposed ordinance number 21-033, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Lakeland, Florida, relating to the city charter, adopting findings, amending Section 6 of the city charter to provide for the filling of vacancies on the City Commission by election at the next available regular city election, providing for the appointment of an interim commissioner to fill a vacancy until the next available regular city election, specifying qualifications of an interim commissioner, amending Section 84 of the city charter to provide for alternates on the canvassing board, providing for the repeal of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date. A public hearing on this and second reading will occur on August 16th. I don't know if the City Commission wants to discuss this morning as well, since we didn't have a chance to discuss it fully on Friday. Just briefly, a summary of what the changes are. We had a real-life test of the existing language in the charter that didn't, obviously provided their problems with the way the charter is set up now. So what this proposed amendment would do is specify that in the event of any vacancy on the city commission, whether there's 6 months remaining or less than 6 months remaining, more than 6 months remaining, that vacancy would be filled at the next regular city election. And the city commission would appoint an interim commissioner to serve until the next regular city election. One of the rationales for that is that we found the special elections are very expensive. Kelly can attest to that. The last special election cost $150,000, and that was with the city superintendent of elections help. If we're not able to coincide in a special election with the superintendent of elections assistance, they can cost, I think the last estimate we got was $360,000 for a special election, including the runoff. So there's definitely cost savings to be achieved by coinciding the filling of a vacancy with the next regular city election. And you simply, the city commission by a majority vote would appoint an interim commissioner to serve until then. That was the direction that we received at the workshop that we had on this a couple of weeks ago. With regard to who would serve as an interim commissioner, the city commission expressed the desire that that interim commissioner would come from the same district as a district seat if the vacancy occurs in a city commission seat that's designated by district. And then the other direction was that term limited prior commissioners would not be eligible to serve as the interim commissioner. And then the final thing that this addresses is canvassing board alternates. There are times when up to 4 commissioners are up for election in an election, and only the remaining 3 would be eligible to serve on the canvassing board. Sometimes because of schedules and whatnot, there may only be 2 that could make it. So what this proposed ordinance does is allow the remaining members of the city commission serving on the canvassing board to appoint the city attorney, the city manager, or both as necessary to make up a quorum of at least 3 people for any canvassing board. So those are all the changes that are contained in this ordinance.
Months of the term for re-election, didn't we get to the 24-month appointment?
Well, under the charter, we have a regular city election every 2 years on the every odd numbered November. So the most that you would have a vacancy is approximately 2 years. That would be your worst case scenario. And so you would appoint an interim to serve in that gap period.
Okay. For clarity, so therefore, if someone serves, a term opens, has 36 months left, that appointment for that position goes until the next election?
That's correct. That would allow an election to occur halfway through that seat's term, and then whoever wins that election would serve the remaining 2 years of that term.
Okay.
So again, in our discussion, anything over 24 months will require an election, that we have to do a special election at that time. Am I saying that correct? Anything over 24 months?
If it's over 24 months, yes, it would be a special election held at the next regular election. It really wouldn't be a special election.
Yeah, okay.
The only difference would be that the election would only be for the remaining 2 years of that term.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
So and I think that's an important distinction, because we did have a lot of discussion about that at the workshop, but because we have elections every 2 years, there's no need to put in a 24-month cap in because it would be, the term of that appointed commissioner would be up to 2 years because we have elections every 2 years, correct?
That's the process we have now.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize.
Right. That's a little bit of a change from that. It makes sense, but thank you.
What we're really trying to do is avoid the cost of a special election.
And this is consistent with the way the state does it. The state law specifies if there's less than 28 months remaining in a term, the governor actually appoints an appointee to serve until the next election. And also on the canvassing board, state and county canvassing boards consist of 3 individuals.
Very good. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. And just to be transparent, we had pretty verbose discussions. And of course, another item that came up was if a person was going to run for a commission, would they be selected and stuff like that. We can't prohibit somebody from serving, be picked per se, with the intent they may not going to run for that seat, but then again, they changed their mind, so that was so everybody know that was pretty, so we're not going to restrict that component. But there's a thing that I thought was very important was that the person that was selected to represent that particular seat had to live in that particular district, so we would have one area for one vote, and I thought that was critical, and I'm glad we got that implemented in there.
Yes, if we were really trying to preserve the ability not to have someone that is not going to run, you wouldn't eliminate the possibility of taking a termed out commissioner and appointing them, because that's the way you could preserve that. So you could bring the experience in, even if they had been termed out for that interim period of time, they're not going to run again. Right. And so that certainty that we have eliminated making a possibility in this discussion makes that person vulnerable to be able to run, even if they thought they might not. So we're going to really look at, or whatever commission looks at this, is really looking at people with experience that can serve well, and what they decide to do is up to them as individuals, not contingent to a commitment, not to run. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments or conversation? Commissioner Music.
Yes, as one who went through that, I think that the looking at the finances is certainly the number one priority, and if we can do it. But I'll tell you, having just recently gone through this, one of the pluses that is not really part of this because it's ancillary is the number of people that show up to vote in a special election in an off is abysmal.
Right, right.
So to be able to take that and wrap it in, I think is not only is it financially more efficient, but also just
more representative.
Absolutely. So I certainly get behind that.
Excellent. Good comment.
So this will come back for a public hearing on August 16th. If you get that, gives you a little more time to think about the wisdom of this, or if you want to go in a different direction.
Yes, sir.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the resolution that accompanies the lots cleaning and clear and equalization hearing that we just had. That is proposed resolution number 21-053, a resolution relating to assessments determining the necessity for having cleaned and cleared certain properties within the city of Lakeland, providing for the assessment of liens against such property for expenses incurred in the cleaning and clearing thereof, providing an effective date, and to just be consistent with the equalization hearing, I would just request that you eliminate from the roll any of the properties owned by True Investors Development.
Move for approval.
Motion to approve, and is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner McLeod. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussion or questions by the audience? This is a roll call vote, so we'll begin with Commissioner Walker.
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye.
Unanimously passes with Commissioner McCarley out of the room for the moment.
Next is proposed resolution number 21-054, a resolution expressing the intent of the city of Lakeland, Florida to incur costs related to the replacement of hot gas path parts for the generation of electricity, expressing the intent for purposes of compliance with the United States Treasury Regulations Section 1.150-2 to reimburse with the proceeds of revenue bonds the capital expenditures made with respect to such project, providing for the intent for the future issuance by the city of notes, bonds, and other obligations in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not exceeding $5 million, which shall be applied to pay the cost of such project, providing an effective date. This relates to the hot gas path repair work that needs to be done on the Calpine unit. We heard about that at the last City Commission meeting. That will be initially financed by just regularly available funds, but the intent is to ultimately pay for these repairs through the issuance of a bond of up to $5 million. This simply preserves our right to do that in case that is the direction that we want to go.
Move for approval.
Motion to approve and a second by Commissioner Music. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussions or questions by the audience? It's a roll call vote. Commissioner McLeod?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Unanimously passes.
The next item under miscellaneous is my legal fee report for outside counsel. It is high, and the reason why it is high this time is the legal fees related to our water supply issues. That Segunda Fernandez's firm, $341,000. That is related once again to the city's challenge to the proposed rule at the state level, the Central Florida Water Initiative, which proposed reducing the water permit of any jurisdiction within that CFWI area to 2025 demand levels, which would have once again required the city of Lakeland to reduce its water use permit by 11 million gallons per day. So that's a very significant issue. The fee also relates to negotiations and mediation related to the Polk Regional Water Cooperative and how that's set up. So it's a significant fee, but it's an important issue. I think that we're just about done with those outside fees for that purpose. There's another fee in the queue of about $25,000 from that firm, but we're moving into the stage of things where it's starting to transition towards more administrative engineering versus legal issues. So hopefully that's about the end of these high legal fees.
Any portion of that borne share shared by the PRWC?
Not that. We are cost sharing with a private developer who is also having to face a cut in their permit. So we partnered with, we're not partnering, but we're sharing the cost with a private developer.
Got it. Okay. Any, Commissioner Reed?
Thank you. It's a shame that we have to sue these state agencies that want to take away something that we already have. We're seeing that on the bigger level up at Washington, D.C. at the same time. But invariably, is there any way we can recover any of this cost from, in the lawsuit?
No. There's cost.
And legally,
yeah, well, we're saying this, we're suing Swift Mud basically to get our permits back. Is that a fair statement?
There's no way to recover those fees.
And legally, we're really not suing them. We're aligning to make sure we comply with those things. There isn't a suit per se. Yes, Commissioner McLeod.
Palmer, remind me, what's our budget for annual budget for outside legal counsel?
It's not a specific amount. I mean, it's kind of as needed, unfortunately.
I didn't know if we had I couldn't remember if we had a line item that we were trying to tracking and
just can help out on that, but I don't have that number. But it's good.
I can look that up, what it is for Palmer's in the general fund, but please remember that these types of projects, the one-off suits that legal may have to address each year are then charged back those individual departments. Okay, they show up under the city attorney's budget, but they're allocated back to water. So the general fund's not paying for any of this water, these water fees. Those things that we may have related to, I know we have some outside counsel for UWA. Those then are borne by Water and Electric. If we had some related to the police negotiations, well, that is all general fund because those are inside the police. So they come to you through the legal department, the general fund representative, but they are charged back to those individual departments.
Thanks,
Mike. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
The next item is an interlocal agreement with the county to provide bulk wastewater services to the Cumbywood area. That's a mostly residential area just to the west of Cumby Road and south of Main Street. It's a multifamily, a few single-family detached, and a few commercial units in this area. The county has a wastewater treatment plant as well as a collection system. The treatment plant is old and inefficient, and the county is looking to decommission that. And what they have requested is simply to take their treatment plant out of commission and divert all the wastewater collected within this development to the city's collection system, which then is sent to Glendale for further treatment. The county, under this agreement, would pay all the costs necessary to design, permit, and construct all the facilities required to do that. They will install a flow meter, which will allow us to measure the wastewater going into our system, which we will then bill to the county, and presumably they would bill to their direct customers. All of those customers would have to pay impact fees. The county will actually, again, front that money and then bill that to their customers. And the city's impact fees for connection to our system is $480,000. We do have capacity in this area to provide this service. The capacity problems that you've heard about are in the lines versus at the plant, so this does not cause a problem in this particular area. That's recommended for your approval, and David Bayhan is here with Water Utilities if you have any questions.
Commissioner Walker.
Anything different from about this and what we did when we took over the Skyview component? Remember the Skyview component we took over and made ourselves?
This is very similar. Skyview was a decommissioning of the treatment plant and converting those flows to Glendale for treatment. It's just on a much bigger scale.
Okay, so it's very similar to what we did then.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
My question would be, do we get funding for the portion of the treatment that we actually do? I mean, how does that measured? Just so that I'd have a handle on the expense compensation.
Thank you. David Bayhan, City of Lakeland Water Utilities. So the agreement allows for us to bill for the wastewater. So they're basically treated like a large commercial user. We're collecting impact fees pursuant of our regular fee schedule, as well as our monthly usage fees. So it's essentially a large commercial user. They will, as Attorney Davis said, that they will have to install a lift station and construct a force main to get the sewage to our system, and that is all the costs are borne by Polk County to do that.
Okay. Commissioner Reed.
Dave, about how many units are going to be out there? Do you have any idea?
I do. So residential, there's about 208 residential units. Commercial, there are about 12 units.
12?
12 commercial. And those commercial units are right on Cumbie Road there by
Got it.
East Side Drive.
It is. So this will help our enterprise system on it for that wastewater stuff on it.
Yes, sir.
There's a pretty good map, Exhibit A to the agreement, that shows the area and kind of get an idea of how big the development is that's being impacted.
Is all this connection in place?
No. So the Cumbie Wood area has an existing collection system, so all of the units, I actually think there are 4 vacant lots that are not included in the calculations here, but we recognize that they could be built on later. We're not collecting impact fees on those 4 vacant lots today, but the area already has a collection system. It terminates now into an existing treatment plant. They, as Palmer Davis said, that the treatment plant is going to be decommissioned, and they will construct a force main to bring all of that sewage to our collection system, which will eventually end up at the Glendale plant. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions by commissioners? And we don't have a motion to approve this yet, do we?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion to approve in a second. Discussion by commissioners.
We've been discussing.
Beyond that, any by the audience? This is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. Thank you. All right, that brings us to our finance director's report, item 7A.
Yes, good morning again. We have one appropriation request. This is for the early replacement of 9 Lakeland Electric aerial trucks that are scheduled to be replaced in October of 21. Our fleet manager has been notified that we are to expect a slight increase in costs in September for these 9 vehicles, and they're about $240,000 a piece, I believe. Along with that, there's a tremendous lead time for large vehicles right now, and so as you can see, any postponement of a week adds 30 to 60 days to the lead time, and so the monies are accumulated in our fleet fund. It's just a case of appropriating those, and when the auction monies come in for the current vehicles, they'll be applied back into that fund. So with your approval, we'd like to simply transfer those monies and make it happen now rather than October 1st. Sure.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Music and a second by Commissioner Walker. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussion by or questions by the audience? This is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. Thank you. That brings us to our utility portion of the meeting, item 8A. By the way, we do not have a utility meeting this month. just for the record. And that would be 8C1.
Good morning, Ramona Siriani for the City Attorney's Office. Yes, we have a number of utility items. The first is an agreement with ABB Enterprise Software, Inc. This is for the MGT2 breaker overhaul. The existing breaker is at an age of 30 years old and original to the equipment that was purchased. And as a reminder to the Commission, that particular unit was purchased as is, obviously without warranty, and referred to as the old Calpine unit. Upon conducting an inspection, the breaker, there were indications that there was a need for an overhaul, and there's also some issues with the seals and the degrading of the insulating components with the breaker. ABB is the original equipment manufacturer, so purchasing department approved that as a sole source purchase. The overall parts and labor and materials, the total cost is $178,279. This work will be completed during the fall 2021 outage scheduled between November and December of this year, and that total amount is included in Lakeland Electric's FY21 budget, and we would ask for your favorable approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion approved in a second by Commissioner Music. And that was Commissioner McCarley on the first. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussion or questions by the audience? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes.
The second item we have is an agreement with ESC Spectrum Corporation. This is for a continuous emissions monitoring system for Larson's Unit 8. Larson's Unit 8's existing CEMS system is 30 years old and has reached beyond its useful life, so we've detected that there's some multiple issues relating to monitoring of the combustion turbine emissions of Unit 8, which also impacts our ability to make sure we ensure with compliance with emission standards. So once installed, the new CEMS will improve emissions monitoring for Lakeland Electric. Purchasing department issued an invitation to bid back in May. We had 3 responses, and ESC Spectrum submitted the lowest, most responsible bid price at $178,853. They will commence work with anticipated delivery, installation, and startup of the new CEMS in early 2022. Upon evaluation of that bid, however, there was also additional work was negotiated to be included as part of that. And that work includes removal of debris in the lines. That added $2,450 to the base bid, which is still makes ESC the lowest responsible bidder. So that total is now for the work $181,303, and that is included in Lakeland Electric's FY21 budget. Yes.
Motion to approve. Commissioner Madden, and a second by Commissioner Walker. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussion or questions by the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes as well.
The next item we have is an agreement with E2 Power Systems for the purchase and installation of automatic voltage regulators and excitation electrical equipment for Larson Unit 8. This will include the purchase of 2 AVRs and the related equipment for the unit. The existing AVRs are, again, we're dealing with Larson Unit 8, over 30 years old and need of replacement. These AVRs control the voltage of the AC power produced and to maintain a constant output at a fixed voltage, which is important for mitigating damage that any fluctuations can occur. E2 was the original equipment manufacturer, and the city's purchasing department approved them as a sole source supplier for the work. The turnkey installation will include the 2 new AVRs, which also includes work related to removal of that old equipment, installation of the new equipment, and then the related connection and interface with the existing control systems. It will also include on-site commission tests by E2's engineers. The cost is broken down before you for the scope of work. However, the total is $335,223. They would be completing this work for Larson Unit 8 in March 2022. The total cost of the work is included in Lakeland Electric's FY21 budget and FY22 budget, and that's subject to commission approval of that budget. And we'd ask for your favorable approval.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Commissioner McLeod and a second by Commissioner McCarley. They both have the MCs on this one. And any discussion by commissioners? Any discussion by the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes.
The last item that we have is a task authorization with Teamwork Net, Inc. This is for Hamilton Substation Phase 1 engineering services. The substation construction is actually scheduled for beginning FY 2022, but this engineering work is necessary for the preparation and submission of the initial permit applications, surveys, environmental assessments, geotechnical services, and also site development plans. Upon approval by the commission, Teamwork will commence services. Phase 1 of the project is anticipated to be completed by October 1st, 2021. This will be the work will be in accordance with the City Commission's previously approved continuing contract for electrical engineering services and Teamwork Net's proposal dated July 15th, 2021. The total not to exceed cost of the services is estimated at $98,000, and that is included in Lakeland Electric's FY21 budget. And we'd ask for your favorable approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second and discussion by commissioners.
I just have one comment.
Yes, Commissioner McCarley.
Just for the general public, I just want to comment, Ms. Sirianni is very good at always adding at the end that this is included in the fiscal year budget. So just to note that all of these expenditures have been planned for. Ellie is on top of it. They have a long-term game plan of how to pay for these things, and it's not that we're arbitrarily approving money and just making it appear out of thin air. All of these are anticipated costs. So I just want to say thank you for always including that when it happens. Sometimes it doesn't, but for the most part, you all are really good at making that happen.
I'll add to that, not only in the legal preparation of making that happen, but also in the
Right.
engineering and design and competitive through the purchasing department analysis of those full service.
Absolutely.
And so, very, very good. Appreciate that comment, Commissioner McCarley. Okay, other comments by commissioners? Any by the general public? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And I'm listening for your voice, Commissioner McLeod. That was an aye. So it unanimously passes.
I had an eye earlier, too. I was missing.
Oh, yes, and so we can put that on the record. It was just shouted from afar on the absent one. All right, that brings us to the audience participation portion of the meeting. And is there anyone who'd like to speak from the general public? Please come up to the podium and state your name, address, sir, and your comments.
My name is Alfred Gomar Jr., Alfredo Anthony Gomar, or Alfredo Gomar Martinez. I'd like to pledge my allegiance to the flag because I didn't get a chance to, and say that it's not only for one, not for some, but for all. Mr. Music, Commissioner, I congratulate you for becoming the Commissioner.
Thank you.
I see you, Mr. Walker, you're here again. Mr. Mutz, you're here again. Mr. Reed, you're here again. Mr. McLeod, you're here again. Mr. Davis, you're the city attorney now. Sean Staros, city manager, taking over. Tony Delgado, my dear friend. We had a little brouhaha, but I called him a clown once. But I apologize. We were good friends. I miss him. I like to say this. Early in the Mutz administration, people from Texas came up. There was a meeting. Mr. Mutz was there. I think Stephanie Madden was there. Bill Reed was there. I think Mr. McLeod was there. I think Philip Walker was there. And maybe Sarah Roberts, McCarley was there. came from Texas. They had a program in Texas for the homeless, the people with substance abuse. And it was a psychiatrist, social workers, counselors, doctors, medical personnel, backup housing. If they needed Medicare, if they were old enough, they would apply for Medicare, they apply for Social Security cards, and they got a place to live, and they had to sign a contract that they were not going to go back to drugs, they would go into the substance abuse program, and that they were going to go to an Alcoholic Anonymous program or whatever it was. They might have just been paranoid schizophrenic, or they might have been just bipolar. Okay, so they had to seek treatment and follow up. I thought that was a good plan. I thought it should have been adopted. I see people in the streets still today by Talbot House and Salvation Army. I saw last night a gentleman like this with a beard, about 6 foot, and they asked me foolish questions. I saw him 2 weeks ago during the day. The man needs to be in the hospital. He needs to be in 1 South. They asked me, what's 1 South? Well, Mental Health and Addictions Unit in Lakeland Regional. I was there. I've been there. All right. So sometimes I would go in. They would give me a medication. It wouldn't function well. And my psychiatrist, Dr. Dan Brand, a great psychiatrist, and Dr. Alva Restrepo, a great psychiatrist also. I wanted him to be my stepfather. They both were good. They both died. Alvaro Restrepo, 6 months before my mother. She died May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, 12:50 p.m. in the hospice here in Lakeland. I miss her, and I'll always miss her, and I pray to her for guidance. I thought that program, you should try to adopt some type of program like that. That man needed help. I told the police, you can't do it. You can get it, you can get him. They would tell me, did you talk to him? I said, no, I'm afraid to talk to him because he's like this. So I had to call, I was sitting in front of a taco bus. They had the open sign on behind. That's a strap, okay, for me. All right, so I thought it was open, that they were open late. So, but he was coming towards the car, so I closed the car door, and he moved across the street to Peter Pitt. And then they asked me, I didn't look behind, I couldn't look behind. So I didn't know whether he went into the public parking, whether he went around to Lemon Street and on 98 North, or went around and back to Munn Park, or back to across the Kentucky tracks. So I asked police to look for him. And they gave me a hell of a hard time. They asked me stupid questions. And 2 weeks before that, the officer did not answer those questions. So anyway, whatever the case is, they went and looked, and I looked too. I went in the public parking, I looked. I went up and down 98. I went down Lime Street, I went around. Anyway, well, I just want to say one more thing.
Okay, one more thing, sir. Go ahead.
I miss Mike Dunn. He got a bad break, and I don't know where he is, and I want to send him something.
Go ahead, say one more thing.
One more thing, Mike Dunn. I miss Mike Dunn. I miss him.
Yes.
I predicted his victory, and I was with him on the bus when we went to Orlando. That was a travesty of justice. I don't know where he is, and I miss him.
Thank you.
God bless.
Appreciate your comments. Are there any other comments? Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners.
Morning.
On Facebook, there was a post put out from Johns Hopkins Medicine, and they say here the following common vaccine-related falsehoods are addressed. And so they say that it's a myth that the COVID vaccine can affect women's fertility. Well, we have thousands of percentile upticks in miscarriages. Myth, if I've already had COVID-19, I don't need a vaccine. Well, isn't that what they said in the beginning? Myth, researchers rushed the development of the COVID-19 vaccine, so its effectiveness and safety cannot be trusted. Dr. Sarah Emanuel said that normally, and others have said that normally it takes a vaccine 7 to 10 years to be developed. You know, you can't rush a tree to grow, right? Nature has a course, and so it was fast-tracked, and it was unethical, as she said, to do it. Myth, getting the COVID vaccine means I can stop wearing my mask and taking coronavirus precautions. Well, didn't they say that you could largely get rid of the mask? Okay. Getting the COVID-19 vaccine gives you COVID. Recently, in Israel and in Iceland, they've had an uptick of COVID cases in their hospitals. The majority had been vaccinated. The majority of the patients, and I remember this stat of people 60 years and over, 91% who had COVID had been vaccinated. Now, I remember in the past doing studies on this, that in 1985, there was an outbreak of whooping cough in Nova Scotia. All the children had been vaccinated, so it didn't work, okay? The side effects of the COVID vaccine are dangerous. That's a myth. So I went on VAERS. Now, does anyone know what VAERS is? The Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. It is set up by the US government. So it's a myth that the side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine are dangerous. Well, I printed it out. The VAERS report said with the COVID-19, there are 1,887,507 adverse events. Okay? And what's amazing is that 1 million, the VAERS report says that it represents only 1% of the adverse reactions. Only 1% of people reported. So you could multiply that number by 100. And you could almost say 188 million adverse events. The COVID-19 vaccine enters your cells and changes your DNA. Does enter your cells. The messenger RNA technology used to make the COVID-19 vaccine is brand new. No, it's not. Yes, it is. The RNA that was used previously was taken from, I forget the word, that different substance. This is a new one. It's a new approach that they're doing. So yes, it is new. The myth that the COVID-19 vaccine was developed with or contains controversial substances. Well, I have here a report from the Lozier Institute, which says that the Pfizer vaccine was protein tested using the abortion-derived cell line HEK 293. That's Pfizer. Moderna, HEK 293. J&J, PER C6. Sputnik 5, HEK 293. Okay, the list goes down and down and down. And so the Lozier Institute has all the information right there. You can look them up. And so therefore, you know, the scriptures say, unless the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh, but in vain. Your watchmen are sleeping. And what happens when that happens? City of Lakeland. God bless you. You're in my prayers.
Thank you for your...
Talk to me anytime. Send me a reply. You know I send you your emails. Okay? But you're not doing due diligence. Period.
I'll comment on that, and not for a rebuttal. We are doing our due diligence, and 94% of the hospitalized patients at Lakeland Regional Hospital right now are unvaccinated patients, not the reciprocal.
I have these stats too, and they're saying otherwise. And so we have a statistical war, or we have, that's in Lakeland, but what say other statistics? And that's just in one area. Because
I wasn't opening for a debate.
what you put up on the website
Thank you.
is an error.
Are there any other comments from the audience? All right, hearing none, that brings us to our commission comments. Who would like to begin today? Commissioner Music, do you have something on your mind?
No, I would just like to say thank you. Yeah, it was a good restful week for a lot of us. I know the Olympics were on late or early, however you look at it, but America seemed to be doing well in the things that I watched. So no, I just I really want to, I guess, echo what Commissioner McCarley had said when they get to the end of their statement, they talk about this is in the budget and those are kind of things, because that's just something that I'm always looking for when I hear something. So where is that money coming from? Right. And that they take the point to say that, and that you echoed that, because we know it because we've talked about it before. But the fact that you let the citizens know that, hey, listen, this is something that's been planned for. Everybody is doing their due diligence, as it were. And so I just appreciate that, and looking forward to. We've got a full schedule of activities coming up this week, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Commissioner McCarley.
I have a couple transit, since we talked about transit earlier, updates. The first update from the Citrus Connection Transit Authority, or Lakeland Area Mass Transit Authority, is the 21X route started today, and that goes on Highway 60 from Bartow to Lake Wales, and it loops back for anybody who's down there and needs to cut across the county. And then also, this is the last week of our Summer of Safety, and what that is that we have a sponsor every year that if you are a K to 12th grader and have a school ID, you can show that to ride the bus for free. It's to encourage our young people, especially middle and high school students, to utilize the public transit system. And I just want to give a shout out to Ashley Wright at New Beginnings. They sponsored that this summer. So we want to say thank you to her. And this is the last week of it because school starts next week. So everybody amp up for public school on August 11th. Woohoo!
There's an interesting article this morning about the personnel needs still in the school system, which is severe.
Interesting, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for mentioning that, Commissioner McCarley. Summer safety began as a result of the challenges that we were having to gang violence back in 14, 15, and of course the city, partnered with, our Citrus Connection to make sure we could have that particular summer that we were finding the uptick in some challenging situations in our community where our young people could be able to get on ride free, as it did, and of course we've had it going ever since, and it's been, I think, a very positive situation to help support young people to be able to get to wherever they need to go, libraries, camps, wherever they're going, movies, that kind of thing. So it's good you said that, so people know it's been a good ride for our city, and sponsors to do that. Yeah.
And just an addendum on how different groups work together. We talked about that earlier with our housing office with Mrs. Gibson, of how working with transit's important to understand the maps and what the future planning is for transit and how that impacts the city of Lakeland. So the more that we have these partnerships with community groups like New Beginnings, but also in addition with one another, as we serve the residents of Polk County and Lakeland specifically, all of those interactions are invaluable. So sometimes the public doesn't always see the inner workings of that, but we on the commission sit on various boards and sit in various groups where we see that overlay happening. And staff does a really great job at partnering, but we always like to heighten that and bring it to the forefront so that it continues.
Yes. Excellent. Anyone else? Commissioner Madden.
Thank you, Mayor. So mine is not as happy of a note today because we lost two wonderful citizens last week. Dr. Cliff Wheeler and Todd Christian, both wonderful humans, fathers. Cliff was a grandfather, husbands, brothers, and friends, and the outpouring of love and the celebrations over the weekend were beautiful. And my encouragement is to all of you to just love your families, love your friends, because none of us are promised tomorrow. I happened to be with my friend Cece Christian, and the LPD helped us so much that morning last Tuesday. And it just makes you realize what our LPD officers have to see and witness every day that they shelter us from. but I was a witness of their excellent professionalism, their care and compassion, and I'm so grateful for my friend and for all of the friends, just like the gentleman that was saved, that was in the service, in the meeting today. So I just wanted to give my love and condolences to everyone who's grieving in our city for those two wonderful gentlemen, and to encourage everyone else to just love your people.
I'll piggyback off that a little. On September 11th, there's going to be a celebration. It'll actually be at Carolyn Lakes by a group of people that are going to do some remembrances of those who lost members family members during COVID, or friends that didn't have an opportunity to ever express that well. And so this is, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name, but a silence, kind of that period of time, a silence of grief, I think is what it's called. And the purpose of that is to be able to kind of have time together with other people who suffered likewise and didn't have a chance to do anything about it. So it's important, because it's such a difficult time, to make sure that we have the opportunity to grieve appropriately, not only within our own families and as close friends, but even as a community. So there's some sensitivity to that, for which I'm very, very grateful. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, sir. There again, I would like to reiterate, tomorrow night is our National Night Out.
It's all day. What do you
well,
mean tomorrow night? Starts at 7 a.m.
National Day Out, all right. But most of us will be out and around the different communities, lots of events going on. So I look forward to seeing a lot of people tomorrow evening from that standpoint. Also, if you're bored today at 1 o'clock, we're going to have a nice little workshop you might want to tune into about South Florida Avenue and the diet. Maybe some good discussion there. People want to know what's going on and what's happening in that area. Other than that, I'm glad to be back from, I think some of us were gone about the same time on vacation, stuff like that, and it's about time to buckle down and get back to work, get back to business. So hopefully everybody's refreshed and revigorated and ready to take on the challenges of the rest of the year. So thank you.
You caught some good fish, didn't you?
Yeah, I was lucky.
Yeah, excellent.
I need your secrets.
Commissioner McLeod.
Well, Commissioner Reed covered mine. I was going to talk about National Night Out, and just I'm excited. This is my first experience with that day, and I know a lot of work went into it, looking at the list of organizations and just everything that goes into making this happen. So I'm excited about seeing it and being out in the community tomorrow. And I thought we did well as a team today, not having an agenda study on Friday, so well done, Mayor, in leading us through the agenda, and staff, and just making sure we were, had all the documents and were prepared. So we'll look forward to seeing everybody at 1.
Thank you. Anything else from the other end of the room? All right. Thank you very much. Well, if there's no other discussion, we are adjourned.
May I say something?
No, you can't.
No, you can't say anything.
There was no hammer. Go ahead. I didn't.
We're hungry.
Wasn't
Of
quite
course.
tapped.
I don't have to say if you tell me not to say. You're the man in charge, not me.
What would you like to share, sir?
Well, thank you for allowing me to.
I apologize. I asked anything else.
Well,
Just raise your
You wanted to
hand.
go last.
no, he started with Mike Music. I'm not the facilitator, he is, so, you know. But I'd like to just share a couple of things if I could. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, again. Thank you to LPD for their Teen Peace Summit. Captain Marvin Tolliver, I understand they had about 75 or so teens and parents out on this past Friday. And as was mentioned by, I guess, Commissioner Reed, many of us were not in place because we're out on vacation with our families, but I understand it was a very good turnout. I think there was one of the television, I think it was maybe 13, Fox 13, had did a clip on it as well. And that was a very good turnout, I understand, and that did a lot of role playing with the young people about, you know, how you, when you're approached by a police officer, how you should react and not react to help support the situations that could hopefully not be a major concern. So I thought that was very well. And of course, you know, myself, along with Commissioner Madden, we attended the FMEA conference, you know, week before last. I thought it was very well attended, getting some much needed information about you know, what's going on with, especially the utility called electrical utilities all over our state and the nation as well, and how, you know, I think EVs is going to be the thing of the future. Now, we heard a lot about that, and how, you know, about, I think you mentioned about year 2030, 35, you're going to find a majority of us in using EVs, electrical vehicles, to get around, traverse around a particular cities or country as it would be, and how things, as far as the utilities are concerned, becoming more important to get be involved in renewable energy and doing things that, you know, we're doing, of course, with our utilities support renewable energy as well. So I thought it was a very good conference. I was hoping that maybe Commissioner Madden may say more, but I thought she would have, and I was going to say less, as I am, because I see you all ready to go. So we'll get ready to say, that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Walker, I love you, sir.
I love you too, brother.
All right.
I love you less.
Are there any other comments anyone would like to share from the commission? All right, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.